and 5 minutes later, you can have nothing. That is the situation of every one of us here today. You can be a big, big industrialist with billions of dollars. You can be a very, very expert scholar who can give wonderful discourses. You can be a very wonderful cook or housewife. All abilities to satisfy others. Whatever your situation, know that in 5 minutes you can have nothing. That is the nature of this world. Krishna, through material nature, can take away all your wealth, all of your intelligence, all of your popularity, all of your prestige, all of your abilities in a second. What he took away from Maharaj Yudhisthira, he had millions and millions of times more than any of us will ever hope to have. And he lost it all in a second. In my country, America, some years ago, just 40 years ago, there was a depression where the stock market crashed. And within 5 minutes, people who were multi-millionaires living in big, big palaces, 5 minutes later, they were on the streets begging for a potato with no place to sleep. Now, if that can happen in such a country as America, you don't think it can happen in a country like India? Rogues, thieves can attack at any moment. Krishna wanted to show us not to be too attached to anything. Because the flickering nature of this world, kamala dala jala jivana talamala, is it's here today and tomorrow it may be gone. So what are you going to attach yourself to? These things or to that which is permanent? The only thing permanent in life is our relationship with God. An intelligent man wisely invests his human energy primarily in establishing that relationship with God, knowing that all the things of this world today may be here, but tomorrow they may be gone. It is not within our control, ultimately. Perhaps the most important lesson to be learned in this condition is that in the ultimate issue, we are all completely helpless. Draupadi was a great queen. She was not an ordinary human being. By the great sacrificial ceremony of King Drupada, Draupadi was born of fire, along with her brother Drishtadyumna. She was the wife of the 5 Pandavas. It is described when the Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi was taking place. It was specially designed so that nobody except Arjuna could possibly have her hand in marriage. What had to be done by the person to win her hand was impossible by any other warrior on earth except 2 people, Arjuna and Karna. And of course Bhishma, but because Bhishma was a lifelong brahmachari, everyone knew that he wouldn't be coming. So when Karna approached where there was a fish behind a moving wheel, and you had to look down in a reflection of water and pierce the eye of the fish without looking directly. So when Karna came, everyone was very afraid. Oh my God, he could do it. So she insulted him by saying, "You are a low-class man, you are not really a Kshatriya. You are not allowed to be in this competition. After all, your father is only a chariot driver. Therefore, your distinction does not qualify you to compete for my hand." He was very angry, very insulted. And then there was no one left except Arjuna who could do it. So how, by the arrangement of God, she was married to the 5 most confidential associates of the Lord, means she was very, very special in her qualifications. She was meant to be the queen of earth. Now, being in such a condition, the normal person will become very proud. Just see what I have. Every woman who has a good husband is proud of her husband. Even a woman who has a terrible husband tries to be proud of her husband. After all, this is all I have. In America, it's not like that. You just get a new one. But in India, you're stuck with the one you have, so you might as well be proud of him, right? And there are stories in the Vedic literatures of very, very high-class women who were very protective and proud of even men who were very fallen, always trying to uplift them and help them. Just like Srila Prabhupada's sister, she was a very religious, very pious woman, and her husband used to go out drinking. And when people would come to her house and say, "Where is your husband?" she would know he was at the place where the alcohol was being served. And she would very proudly say, "Oh, he is at temple. He is worshiping God at the temple." And they would say, "Oh, very nice." In this way, a woman by nature is very proud of her husband. And if a woman has a good husband, my God, she becomes very proud to see my husband, how good he is. Now Draupadi, if you think, Mataji's, you have good husband, she had 5 best husbands. If you think that, oh, my husband is a very good devotee, her husbands were Krishna's best friends. Maharaj Yudhisthira, who was religion personified. Talk about high births. He was the son of Dharmaraj, Yamaraj, the great Mahajan. Arjuna was the son of Indra. Bhima was the son of the most powerful of all the devatas, Vayu. And Nakula and Sahadev. So here she was, the heir of the planet Earth and all of its opulences, with the greatest husbands. But she was put in a situation where she was all alone, with nothing and no one. that would or could protect her. Draupadi was dragged by Dushasana into the court of the Kurus. Where there were many respectable men. Now for a woman of spiritual quality, her chastity is the most precious and cherished aspect of her life. In fact, it is said that a civilized man, this is how he evaluates a woman, by her chastity. A man of low mentality, he will evaluate a woman by her physical appearance or by her personality, how charming her personality may be. But a man of spiritual integrity, he will evaluate a woman by her devotion to God and by her chastity. It is said in the Shastra that there is no ornament that beautifies a woman more than her chastity. Our Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, tells the story of how when he was young, he was once with his friends in Calcutta, and there was a street sweeper woman, Bungi. By all caste distinctions, she was the lowest. She was sweeping the street. But the way she was keeping herself covered, and the way she was always moving aside whenever men would come by, was such a prominent exhibition of her inner chastity that he said even the most sophisticated and distinguished men, when they saw her, they would offer her all respects. And Srila Prabhupada said that he and his friends, when they saw her, they offered their obeisances, saying the quality of her chastity. Now, for a woman of such high consciousness, to lose chastity is worse than death. They would welcome death 1,000 times before losing their chastity. They would accept the tortures of hell before losing their chastity. Now, Draupadi was a woman of such quality. And Duryodhana knew this. And because he was so envious, he wanted, in front of the Pandavas, for her to give up all her chastity by force, simply to humiliate and embarrass those whom he was envious of. This is the mentality of an envious person. He loves to see the suffering of others. He loves to see the degradation of others. If you are envious of someone, you cannot tolerate seeing that person glorified. You cannot tolerate hearing that person's name esteemed. But you'll do anything or everything, by hook or by crook, to somehow or other diminish the prestige of that person's good name and fame. And depending on the degree of your envy, that will determine the degree of how malicious you will be. If your degree is just some, then when you hear somebody saying, oh, this person, just see what he has done, you say, well, actually, he didn't really do it. He's not really so good after all. There's really many people so much better. And I'm one of them. I may not say it directly, but indirectly, eventually you will see. But if someone is just outright envious, like Duryodhana, he just wanted to utterly smash the most precious quality of Draupadi to pieces and make her into an unchaste prostitute in front of all. You know, Duryodhana is living within the hearts of all of us. To some degree, we all have this quality. We must be very careful not to respond to this voice of envy within us. Because we see the result of what happened to Duryodhana because he offended great souls. He died a miserable, suffering death and became infamous for the rest of history as an envious rascal. That is the result. You lose everything when you offend great souls due to envy. It may not happen instantly. After all, Duryodhana offended the Pandavas, and for the next 14 years he was the king of earth. So one may think, well, what's so bad about offending great souls? He was the king of earth. During that 14 years, many people were probably talking like this. But it says that the mills of time, they grind slow but exceedingly fine. Whatever you deserve, you will get. Maybe not today, but in due course of time. So Duryodhana wanted to strip Draupadi naked in the assembly of great men. Now, for a woman to be undressed before anyone other than her husband is considered to be unchaste. Now, we're speaking about 5,000 years ago in Bharatvarsha. Today, this principle is not very popular. An honorable man would not even consider taking the hand of a woman in marriage who was even touched by another man. This was the way they lived. They had such a sense of honor and morality. Just like we read about Bhishma when he wanted to get wives for Vichitravirya. And he went to the Swayamvara ceremony of Amba, Ambala, and Ambika. And he kidnapped all three of them. Because he knew that Vichitravirya would never win their hands. And he knew he was disqualified because he didn't want any of them for his wives. So therefore he simply went in the arena, grabbed them by the hands, put them on his chariot, defeated all the warriors, and drove off and brought them to Hastinapur. But one of the women already gave her heart to another man. And when she explained this, Vichitravirya said, then I cannot marry you. And Bhishma and Satyavati, they all said, no, you cannot marry. You should go back to that other man. And when she went back to that prince who was so anxious, he came all that distance just to win her hand in marriage. When she said, all right, now you have me. He said, no, you are on the chariot with Bhishma. Therefore, I cannot take you anymore. You are unchaste. Yeah? This was the degree that a woman's chastity was honored. What to speak of being stripped naked before men? So understand the intensity of the condition that Draupadi was in. She had Dushasana, who was a trained military warrior, who was powerful like no man in this age can ever accomplish. He was a man that could kill hundreds of others at a time, effortlessly, in combat. And she was a queen who always had, as a princess, so many servants. Her limbs were delicate and soft. And his limbs were hard as steel. Duryodhana ordered him to strip her of her sari. So he began to pull. Draupadi was in a condition of losing the greatest thing she had. She was in so much anxiety. She was in a state of so much suffering. All she could think of is, I must preserve my chastity. So with all of her strength, she held on to that sari. And she pulled, and he pulled. And she pulled, and he pulled. It was like a match between a fly and an elephant. She realized that all of her strength was useless. At this moment of greatest and direst need, none of her strength could help her. And all of her wealth and all of her fortune was of no avail. And even her husbands, who were the most powerful men on earth, even they could not help her. She came to the realization that she was alone, that there was nothing and no one that could help her in this moment of crisis. You want to know something? Whoever you are, let me tell you, at the time of death, you will be in the same predicament as Draupadi. All your prestige, all your money, all your fame, all your family members, there will be nobody there to help you at the time of death. It's just you pulling on one side and death, all devouring death, pulling on the other. And you are helpless to win. Draupadi realized in that condition of life that I am helpless. Completely. My only shelter is Krishna. Only Krishna can save me. I am 100% dependent on His mercy alone. And therefore, in total helpless desperation, first she turned to her husbands. How can you let this happen to me? Are you going to stand there and let this happen to me? And they went like this. Then she turned to Bhishma. Her through marriage was her most glorious protective grandfather. Are you going to allow this to happen to me? He looked down. This is very similar to the story of Gajendra the elephant. You know the story. He was the king of the jungle, with friends, family members, wealth. But when the crocodile of death was defeating him, he looked at his family members, he looked at his kingdom, he looked at everyone, please help me. And they all stood there. What can we do? So in this condition, when Draupadi understood the reality of her position in this material world, she threw her arms in the air, which is a sign of total surrender. Which means she accepted that I am not the doer. As long as she was holding on to her sari, trying to hold by her own strength, she thought she could save herself. But when she came to full realization that she could not do anything for herself, she let go. She raised her arms to outreach, crying out for Krishna. And with a heart filled with love, filled with helpless devotion, she cried out, Hey Krishna, Hey Govinda. And Krishna is none different than his name. And according to the degree of sincerity you chant his name, he will reveal himself accordingly. Because she chanted his name in helpless devotion, in full dependence, therefore Krishna fully manifested himself right there instantly. He manifested himself within her sari to save his devotee from this embarrassing situation. And as Dushasana pulled and pulled and pulled, Krishna kept supplying. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupashate teshin nitya vayuktayam yogakshemam mahamyam. That for my devotee I protect what he has and preserve what he lacks. Huh? This is the perfect example of this verse. Draupadi lacked enough sari to cover her body. So Krishna carried what she lacked. And he became the sari. And as Krishna is unlimited, Ananta, so similarly her sari, who was then an incarnation of Krishna himself, became as unlimited as God. Just as there is no end, there is no limit to the glories of God, there was no limit and no end to the extent of her sari. And the more Dushasana pulled, the more her sari grew. And it grew and grew until practically the whole room was filled with sari. And Dushasana was so exhausted that he had to surrender to Krishna. Actually, at the time of death, Krishna describes Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tijakyan te kalevaram antakala chaleva smaran va kalevaram. that one who remembers me alone at the time of death, he attains me. Death can come today. There is no guarantee. Just a few days ago, we were going to Vrindavan from Delhi. We were driving in a car. And there was a roadblock. Some policemen stopped us. And a car, somehow or other, why and how it happened, we do not know, but it swerved off head-on into a bus. The car was smashed, and the dead body of the person in the car was laying there. And the police stopped us just inches away from the car, and they couldn't get this person's body out of the car. So unavoidably we looked. We had to see this dead corpse laying there, who 5 minutes before was on his way to a destination, just doing his ordinary daily activities. And we were thinking, my God, he was probably the least person on earth to expect that he would die today. But he died. So similarly, we are also the least people on earth expecting that we are going to die today. But how do we know? So we were all reflecting in the car like this. And 5 minutes later, all of a sudden, somebody came right before us, and we started to swerve off the road, and a bus was coming right then. And we realized, this is it, we're in the exact same situation. But somehow or other, the bus stopped, and we went around. Huh? We were inches away from meeting the same destiny. And then we were in Vrindavan, and because I have sore foot, I could not walk so much. So we were in a rickshaw. And we're in the rickshaw, and the rickshaw is driving, and all of a sudden the rickshaw crashes into someone, and I flew off the rickshaw. I literally flew off. And as I was flying on the road, there was a truck coming right there. And I just rolled off the road and was less than inches away from being run over, which was almost the exact same situation again. So when I got up, I began to smile. I was thinking, Krishna, you are obviously trying to put some point across to me today. That death could come to any of us at any moment, whoever we are, however learned, wealthy, death could come at any moment. Even however young we are. Maharaj Yudhisthira declared that the greatest thing that he has seen in the whole world is that nobody thinks that they're going to die, although everyone around them is dying. Now Krishna says, one who remembers me at the time of death will attain me. Actually, he is the only one that can save us at the time of death. We cannot turn to our bank balance. We cannot turn to our physical strength. We cannot turn to our good intelligence. We cannot turn to our family members or our friends or our business associates. We cannot turn to the army or the prime minister. The only one that can save you at the time of death is Krishna. And if we call out his name, he will be there to save us. He proved this in the incident of Draupadi. That anyone who chants his name with sincere feeling, he will reveal himself exactly according to the quality of that feeling. So therefore, the prime duty and goal of this human form of life is to learn how to approach God with sincere feeling, with sincere devotion, with intense longing, with the realization that we are completely dependent on His mercy alone. We are chanting mantras so many times a day, but actually all these mantras that we are chanting are simply preparing our consciousness so that we can chant one time, Hey Krishna, Hey Govinda, in this mood of complete helplessness, like a baby is crying for its mother. The baby knows no one else except the mother that can protect it. And when the baby cries, it's full of intensity and longing for the shelter of the mother. So the Lord teaches us through the lives of such great devotees. And sometimes by His mercy, He puts us in difficult situations to facilitate the opportunity by which we can learn to perfect our life by learning the proper method of chanting His holy names. In this way, this most beautiful pastime illustrates the very essence of how to achieve the goal of life. It is not simply a story. It is not simply history. It is history, but it is the divine Leela of the Lord, which was produced and directed by Krishna just to show you what is the goal of life and how to achieve it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions? Yes.
When we see Mahabharata, the impression is created in the mind of the people that those devotees responsible for this action which Duryodhana has taken. She is responsible herself because she has insulted, because this is the way it is being put up in Mahabharata, and there little confusion is there, that she has insulted Karna, as you have said already, and she has also insulted Duryodhana by telling him that you are son of a blind man and you are also a blind. So these are the two causes, and even Dhritarashtra, even Yudhishthira has burned that you have, by calling in Duryodhana like this, you are going to invite a great trouble for yourself. So the way you have put up is in a different way, and we are thinking now what is being shown on television is a little different.
First of all, you have to understand that Draupadi was born of fire, so she had a fiery temperament. But she was speaking only due to the previous injustices that were done to herself and her husbands. In other words, that was not the cause. That was an effect. Duryodhana was trying to kill Bhima and the Pandavas from the time they were little children. Duryodhana was envious and hateful toward the Pandavas and wanted to rid them from the face of the earth from the time he was a little child, which was years and years and years before they ever even met Draupadi, before Draupadi was even born. Is that not true? When Duryodhana fed Bhima the poison, Draupadi was not even born. Huh? When Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana built the house at Varnataka out of lack, invited the Pandavas there with the plan of burning them to death, they were not even married to Draupadi yet at that time. The fact is, Duryodhana was envious of the Pandavas because he wanted to exploit the resources of the kingdom for himself. And he knew that the Pandavas were more qualified, and it was their right to have it. He was envious because he was attached to sense gratification and false pride. Because of years and years and years and years and years of unfair treatment, persecution, and horrible insults toward her husbands, what do you expect Draupadi to say about such a man? Huh? If someone comes to your wife and tells all kinds of horrible lies, blasphemies about you, what do you think she's going to say? She's going to probably say something bad about that person. Huh? It's the duty of a woman to protect her husband. So Draupadi was speaking in this way simply as a reaction, as a natural feminine reaction to the injustices upon her husbands, who were more dear to her than her very life. There was no fault in Draupadi.
Devotee has been given a type of a harassment or a difficulties by Krishna himself, so that he can be more and more surrendered to him, and more he can spiritually advance by saying that there is no other way except to surrender him. But sometimes it so happens a devotee has been given that type of a harassment or a difficulty which he is not capable to absorb it. In that circumstances, it finds it somewhat difficult to have a faith on Krishna, because it is completely overburdened beyond the capacity. At that time, what should we do?
Do you not think that Draupadi was put in a situation beyond her capacity? Huh? What you should do in that situation is you should throw your hands in the air and cry out, "Hey Krishna, hey Govinda." Krishna never puts you in a situation that is beyond your ability to solve the problem by taking shelter of him. It is true, it will be beyond your capacity, but it is never beyond Krishna's capacity. Huh? So Krishna is giving you an enlightenment that you can do nothing in this situation except cry out for Krishna to save you. Is any situation beyond Krishna's capacity? Huh? If you cry out for Krishna in helpless surrender, totally knowing that you're completely depending on His mercy, is it not His promise that He will save you? So what situation is beyond your capacity? It is only our unwillingness to surrender to Krishna that limits us and keeps us bound to the problems of this world. But it says that Krishna, who is in your heart, He knows the extent of your spiritual consciousness, and He will never test you beyond what you can endure to pass that test. He may test you far, far beyond what you would like to do to pass that test. But he never tests you beyond what you can do to pass that test. Yes.
Why people give up this spiritual life?
Because they are insincere. That is the only reason. Because they are insincere. If they are sincere, Krishna will preserve what they have and carry what they lack. If they are sincere, they will have faith in Krishna. Continue forward under any circumstance. If they are insincere, Bhogaisvarya prasaktanam thaya pratita chetasam yavashayatmaka bhir samadho vidiyate. Krishna, if they are sincere, they will have faith in Krishna. Continue forward under any circumstance. If they are insincere, Bhogaisvarya prasaktanam thaya pratita chetasam yavashayatmaka bhir samadho vidiyate. Krishna says one who is too much attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, the resolute determination for devotional service cannot take place. So if we are insincere, we remain attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence. And then this resolute determination does not take place in our heart. And then when we are tested, we find so many other alternatives other than taking shelter of God.
In this case, Draupadi was tangibly saved, and later on the Pandavas were victorious, so we can say the righteousness won. But is it not that the Krishna has his own ways of doing what is best for us? And therefore, if he thinks that dishonor is best for us, or total misery is always best for us, so with all our helplessness, externally there need not be any change, and then we only have to accept that is also his mercy. I mean, otherwise there is no reaction or no noticeable change in our condition.
Let us take the example of the Pandavas. They were in this mood factually, always. But for 14 years, there was no tangible results to their surrender. But in the end, there was. Or let us take, for example, Prahlad Maharaj. He was crying out for Krishna with pure devotion in a helpless state, time and time again. And yet the persecutions kept coming, day after day after day, week after week after week, month after month after month. His situation did not change. But in the end, Lord Narahari appeared to protect him. So therefore, a devotee has faith that in the end, Krishna will deliver him. But in the process, Krishna has his way of protecting us. Sometimes to keep us in a dangerous condition, sometimes to keep us in a miserable condition for some time is the best way for him to protect us.
Does the devotee have any expectation of ultimate deliverance?
Yes.
What kind of deliverance?
He should have complete expectation.
That is selfishness.
No. That is faith. Faith in the mercy of God. He has complete faith that if he is loyal to Krishna and his Guru Maharaj, that Krishna will never abandon him. Sarva dharman parijyajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papibhyo mokshayishyami. Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall protect you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Krishna is telling us, He will protect you, do not fear. How He will protect you, when He will protect you, do not fear. He will do it. Huh? If you surrender. All you have to be concerned with is whether I am surrendering. If you are surrendering, you know 100% Krishna will protect you. How He protects you, He knows best, not me. Huh? That is faith. Our business is not to try to figure out how Krishna is going to protect us and when. That's Krishna's business. Our business is just to surrender, knowing that He knows what's best. Huh? That is the meaning of surrender, to have that faith. When Prahlad was falling from the cliff, he didn't know how Krishna was going to save him or when. He was simply surrendering. Krishna came and saved him. He didn't know that Lord Nrsingadev was going to come. Huh? He was just surrendering. And when Lord Nrsingadev did come, he was saying, I'm not a businessman, I'm only surrendering. How you want to protect me, that's for you to decide. That's none of my business. But I know you will, because that is your promise. You tell me not to fear in Bhagavad Gita that you will protect me, so I will not fear. I know you will protect me. My only concern is that I am surrendering. That answer your question? Yes.
Maharaj, a devotee of the Lord is compassionate, tolerant, and merciful. And Draupadi, being a devotee of the Lord, why was she not compassionate and evil-minded together?
She was compassionate.
By insulting him?
Yes. She was trying to give him a chance to realize the offenses he was committing and stop them, because she knew that if he continued, he would be ruined. If someone's doing all heinous activities and you say, oh, you are very nice, is that compassionate? That means you're further encouraging him. She was doing everything within her power to stop him from his atrocities, which was meant for his own ruination. Her insults to him were an act of compassion. Huh? She was doing her level best to give him an understanding that he was wrong. Krishna also insulted Duryodhana many times, trying to make him understand that he was wrong. But he wouldn't even listen to Krishna or to speak of Draupadi. That they were all ultimately his well-wishers.
There was a religion personified, and the eldest of the Pandavas, and Arjuna was only an author, great author. So why did Krishna select Arjuna to be the recipient of Bhagavad Gita knowledge and not Maharaj Yudhishthira?
How can you say Arjuna was only a great archer? He happened to be Krishna's best friend. But Arjuna had even a more intimate friendship with Krishna than Yudhishthira.
But the friendship is not calculated in the terms of religion. It's also more religion.
But it is calculated in terms of devotion. Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender. Krishna calculates on the basis of devotion, not religiosity. They were both of the most exalted quality of devotees. But Arjuna was the most special amongst the Pandavas. because of his very deep attachment and friendship to Krishna, which is bhakti. He had, but he did not have the same devotional relationship with Krishna as Arjuna. Any other questions? So we thank you very much.